We've now seen each stage of the production lifecycle: development, packaging and repository generation, and production deployment. Let's now show the end-to-end development cycle. Change some modules, deploy to a repository, and hot update into production. Returning to our development machine, you recall that we have installed on this system the original web, service and JMS modules. Let's assume that we change the service module, do some changes to it, and we want to increment and deploy a new version of this package. We can go into the development module of the services, and let's edit this module description. Let's call this version 2, and let's put a description in there just so that we can see the summary will change. Updated to v2, and save that. So we now want to deploy this new version of this module to the system. I go to Apposite and my packager, and I look for my changed services module. We now see that the change has been picked up. System is already running version 2 locally here. So I highlight that, my app, tier 2, version 2. And let's export that package, save it on my desktop. We now see I've got a tier 2 here on my desktop. Okay, going to our package management system, ARP. Let's bring that package in and manage it under the system. In practice, what would happen is you would have multiple developers developing their own individual parts of a system and producing packages. Some engineer would be responsible for coordinating these packages and bringing them into this production environment. Here I'm doing it all on one machine, but you can imagine this would be something that could be provided out of source control, or just send over from developer to developer. Let's import that second generation of tier 2. See, now we've got 2 generations. Let's update the version description. Second, better version. And commit those changes. And we see that I've got 1 copy of tier 1 and 2 versions of tier 2 now. I want to go to my repository and I want to tell it that there's now an update to that version. So instead of going into base, I go into the update selection. I look at the main set, and I now see that I can install tier 2. I add that. I go back down, and remember in base, we still have tier 1 and tier 2 deployed. By putting it in the update section, we're saying to the installer on the production server, this is now an override of anything in the original base set. We can add any number of updates in future, and they will all supersede the previous generations. Let's regenerate our repository. Download that repository. And on my desktop, I've got another copy which I'm going to expand. So my repository has just been replaced with the new update. If we look in packages, we see it now contains 3 packages, the original 2 and the new package for deployment. Going to my production server, I go into Apposite. I don't need to worry about connecting to the repository, it's already connected. I just resynchronize. Wait for it to do its work of merging the 2 package views, the 2 repository views. That's now done. I can look at the packages. It now says there is updates available If I go down and look, we see that tier 2 is updatable. If we look at the details, we see that version 1 is installed and version 2 is available. About says a second better version. So let's install that update. That update's now being installed and the previous generation is being removed from the system. Again, with no downtime, this is a hot deployment. That's now installed. I can go to my control panel, look at the Space Explorer, and we see the services module is now version 2. If for whatever reason you go to production and the production image that you deploy is bad, even in the best systems this can happen, we can always go to history and we can hit the rollback button. The previous transaction removed version 1, install version 2. Let's roll back so that I go back to version 1 again. That rollback should take place in a second. If I refresh, we now see that my system says that I've installed version 1 and there's an update available. Version 2 is available to update again. My system at no point during this exercise stopped. All we did when we recommissioned all these modules was just hot swap the individual module that was being updated. The rest of the system remained live.